Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Stout, founder and CEO of Vinco Bar Exam Coaching. And today I'm going to share with you 3 easy time management tools. If you're anything like me, you have probably tried out lots of different time management, scheduling, other types of resources to just get a handle on all the things that you have to do in your busy life. Basically, if there's a productivity tip, trick, or tool out there, I've probably tried it. And oftentimes, doing those things end up being a procrastination technique in and of themselves. And when I get stressed out and overwhelmed, I tend to start searching for, what's the next thing that's going to help me, get organized and keep better track of my time and be more focused. But time and time again, I come back to learning and remembering that the best thing to do in those situations is to come back to basics. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. These three tools are not groundbreaking. They're not new. You could probably find me giving them as advice in other videos. But whenever I get off course, these are the 3 things that I realize that I've stopped doing. And as soon as I start doing them again, I have a better handle on my time and I start to become more productive and actually end up having more free time as a result. The first tool I use is something called a brain dump. Sounds kind of gross, sounds kind of weird, but really what a brain dump is getting all of the tasks and to-dos out of my brain and onto a piece of paper. It is super simple, but when I start to feel the stress and anxiety rise because of busyness, it's almost always because I'm afraid I'm going to forget to do something important. And when that happens, it's because I realize that I've been trying to keep it all in my head. I have a decent working memory, but I believe I read a scientific study once that said that you can only hold like 5 to 7 things in your working short-term memory. And when you let it all pile up, you probably are forgetting something, right? If there's a space limit there, you probably are forgetting something. So the very first thing I do when I'm trying to get a better handle on my time management is I take out a blank sheet of paper, could be lined, could be unlined. I take a pen and just any little thing. I don't worry about putting them in categories. I don't worry about making it organized. I don't worry about making it pretty. I'll put, buy dog food next to write brief, right? There's no rhyme or reason. It's just all of those little or big tasks that are taking up space in your brain, just get them out on the paper. We're not worrying about organization. We are literally just taking everything in our head and getting it out of our head, and then we can organize later. But step 1 is to feel like you actually know what it is that you're trying to keep track of, and we can worry about categorizing and organizing after we're sure we have a handle on what actually needs to get done. So the first tool is to do a brain dump. The second tool I use is what I like to call a prioritized to-do list. So really, I guess I could call them a categorized and prioritized to-do list. So what I do at this point is I take that brain dump and I go through and I make different to-do lists based on the categories in my life. So for me, which might not transfer to you, but you can get the idea, I have a personal one. I have one for each school that I teach at, because sometimes I'm teaching at different schools. I have one for Vinco related things, right? Probably make this video is on one of my prioritized to-do lists. And I have one that I keep for the team, the Vinco team, right? So not just my tasks, what other people need to be working on. And I give them each a color. I have lots of colored pens all around. I give each a color. I give each a separate list. And then within those lists, I prioritize which tasks are most important. So I don't just make a list and say, okay, here are all the things I need to do for Vinco, because some of those things might be really important to do today. They might be time sensitive or they might be urgent for some other reason. And some things are more like, I need to get to that at some point. And so you don't want to give all tasks the same weight. So what I do, and I do this every couple of days or once a week, depending on how busy I am, is I go through and I say, all right, this is my top priority in this category. This is my top priority in this category, and so on and so forth, until I get through all of the things that I got out in my brain dump. I take that list of things from the brain dump, which is going to be all scattered all over the place and not make any sense. And then I make it make sense by putting it into categories. And I don't just put it into categories, but I prioritize the tasks by most important to least important, or most time sensitive to least time sensitive. And these two things, these first two tools, play really nicely into our third and final tool. So the third time management tool that I use is time blocking. And very simply put, time blocking is where you sort of map out your day in terms of 30, 45, 1 hour, 2 hour blocks of time that you dedicate to a certain category on your prioritized to-do list. So I might have a 2 hour time block for grading papers or class prep. I might have an hour time block in the morning and an hour time block in the afternoon to do personal activities, chores, meal prep, things like that. And so you kind of go through your day and you give a time block either on a daily or weekly basis for each of your categories. Time blocking is great because it gives parameters, perimeters, edges to a task. You've probably heard me say this if you've seen any of my other time management videos, but we will take as much time as we have available to do a task. And so I always use the example, if I have 2 weeks to grade essays, I'm going to take all 2 weeks to grade them. But if I have 2 hours, maybe I couldn't grade all of them, but I'm going to get a lot more done in 2 hours than I would if I thought I had 2 weeks to do them. Time blocking sort of forces those boundaries, and gives you self-imposed deadlines. It also ensures that you're not just focusing on one part of your life, right? And so think about this in terms of classes. You might have a list for each of your classes. If you're time blocking by classes each day or every other day, you're going to ensure that you don't get to the end of the semester and only have worked on contracts, right? It's forcing you to pay attention, and manage all of the things on your list instead of just focusing on what maybe feels the hardest or the most urgent. So you want to set up those time blocks. You can use a paper calendar. You can use like a Google Calendar or an Outlook, whatever, online calendar. I've done this all different ways. It's really just a matter of what's going to work best for you. Okay, so to recap, first you start with the brain dump, get it all out of your head and onto the paper. Next, you categorize and prioritize those tasks. So you split them up into the different themes or areas of your life, and then you prioritize which tasks are most important. Next, you set up your time blocks where you say, okay, I'm going to go to my personal task list for an hour this morning, and I'm going to do the most important things there. And then you do so on and so forth for the rest of the day with the rest of the categories and the rest of the time blocks. And this system keeps you from having to remember everything. It tells you, just by looking at the paper, you'll always be able to know which tasks are most important. And then when it's time to move on to a new time block, you don't have to think, well, which thing do I need to be doing now? It's right there on the list. You know, the next time that you have a contracts time block, the most important thing for you to do is work on your outline, for example. So I hope if you're maybe feeling a little off your time management or organization game, that these three tools can help you get back on track, back towards reaching your goals. And I will see you in the next video.